I said at the last class we would start with the Vajrasattva practice because we went through most of the, really the main parts of the practice. Of course, the Becoming Vajrasattva book, Niels was just saying she's reading that at the moment, and that's excellent, to go into deeper understanding of the practice, more detail. And, of course, if you're going to engage in the Vajrasattva retreat, that would be the book to have. But in the meantime, if we even just want to, some of us are already doing this practice, so we're familiar, but I'm just going to share the screen. Oh, you need to allow me to share the screen. So this practice was actually put together. I mean, it's based on Lama Zopa Rinpoche's Vajrasattva practice. There's a small booklet. Don't know if anyone's seen it. The small Vajrasattva booklet. Some of you might have seen that's put together by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And this is just another version that Venerable Rabina put together with a wee bit more explanation. And so I'm going to send this to you all so you can work between either one of those. The thing is with the Vajrasattva practice by Lama Zopa Rinpoche, it's the Haruka Vajrasattva mantra that's in that booklet. And for many of us, as I said, if we don't have Hajj Yoga Tantra, we want to just use probably the Kriya Tantra aspect, So that's why I wanted to use this practice for the class and for us doing the practice together. So I will send this off to you with another few links in the next couple of days. I'll send them to Bay and she'll send them out to the class. Yeah, so Bay's just asking, without the initiation, is that what you mean? Yeah, definitely without the initiation, you can still read the book. And the book most likely has both mantras in there, the Haruka Vajrasattva and the Kriya Vajrasattva. So, it's definitely able to read the book, for sure. Just reading it at the level of, we're doing it on the level of Kriya Tantra practice. So, as I said, what makes it powerful is applying the four opponent powers, as it says here in this quote by Lama Yeshe. That's what makes any purification practice powerful, is applying the four opponent powers. So what we're going to do here is just, as I say, for the first 15 minutes, let's just go through, because how many of us haven't done the Vajrasattva practice before? Is there anybody here that hasn't actually? Anybody online? I'm not seeing. Joe, have you done it before? Yeah?
Yeah, a few times, Margot.
Of course, I can't hear Joe because of the...
Oh.
Is that... Joe, maybe just do this because of the... You have done it. Okay, so everyone's actually done it before. Niels hasn't done the Vajrasattva. Okay, but we're doing it for Niels. I mean, we're doing it for all of us, but especially just to walk through it with Niels. And just, hopefully, just for any of us, just to clarify a little bit, we might understand it in a different way if we go through it together. And also because this afternoon I want to dedicate really to purification. So we're going to do the Vajrasattva practice together. Then we are going to do talk a little bit about the 35 Buddha practice. And within that, we'll have a break. And then sometime after the break, we'll finish the 35 Buddha practice and we'll actually do it together for about the last 15-20 minutes. We'll do the physical prostrations. For those of us who can, and those of us who can't, we'll be reciting the names. So we'll just see who wants to do what at that time. So here we're having the screen. We're going to start with the refuge prayer. So before we visualize. Anyway, let's just take a couple of minutes to settle into our meditation position. Going a couple of minutes with breath and awareness, moving through the body. And then that space, we're going to form our intention around some of the reasons, as we nicely discussed over the last couple of weeks and people sharing, why we need to purify. Just want you to sit with that for a moment, your motivation, intention centered around kind of what's motivating us to purify. So now, we first rely on the power of refuge and bodhicitta, reliance, the first of the four opponent powers. And just by thinking, I was just discussing with someone before the class, when our minds are ripe, when our minds are ready for spiritual practice, open to help from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, as soon as that openness is there, as soon as our merit ripens, our karma ripens, the Buddhas appear, the teachers appear, the teachings appear. That's because of the power of bodhicitta, instantaneous bodhicitta, the compassionate energy that's always present in the minds of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. It's always with us, always around us. We just need to hook into that with our own mind, our own openness. So we can think, as soon as I think, I generate the motivation, the intention to purify. Spontaneously, instantaneously appears Vajrasattva on my crown. Our guru at this point, or all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas manifesting in this aspect. The aspect to complete purification. Because that's what we need, that's what we want, that's what we intend to do right now, purify. So just like that, they appear in the aspect of Vajrasattva. Seated on a beautiful lotus and moon cushion. His holy body is made of radiant white light, just emphasizing the need for purification. White has this purity aspect, so helping us to get the feeling, purifying and pacifying. That's the energy of white, purifying and pacifying obstacles. And in this case, the obstacles are a negative karma, broken vows and pledges that we've either taken this life or past life. His eyes are long and peaceful, having a loving, kind of loving gaze upon us. Even though he's on our crown, we can feel him gazing lovingly upon us. The hair is black, held up in a top knot. And in the left hand, he's holding a bell. Reminds us of the wisdom wing, wisdom realizing emptiness. Left hand's holding a bell, the wisdom wing. Right hand is holding a dorji or vajra, dorji in Tibetan, vajra in Sanskrit, showing this the indestructible mind, bodhicitta, the strength, the power of bodhicitta. So we feel for the purpose of purification, to cleanse the mind, a beginningless karma, beginningless delusion, which will eventually completely cease in our mental continuum. But right now it's this kind of karmic load we need to purify. We take refuge in Vajrasattva as an embodiment of the three jewels. And recite this refuge prayer together. For those of us here, it's up on the screen, and those of us online, it's there, right there. So really feeling from the depths of our heart, trying to get a deeper feeling of the need for purification, to open up happiness in the mind, open up the path, the Lamrim path, the tantric path, need to purify. Not just for myself, but for all sentient beings. Right now, I have this fortune that sees the need. So I'm doing it on the behalf of all sentient beings, mother, father, all beings we can see, feel all around us as well, seated. Like one big family taking refuge together. To the Buddha, Dharma, and the Sangha, I go for refuge until I'm enlightened. By this practice of meditating on Guru Vajrasattva, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. So we can just say it once. You can either do it once or 3 times there, or just do once and really think a little bit, just let that settle in the mind stream, that intention. Purifying to step by step become awake, fully awake for all sentient beings. Second power, the second R, the power of regret, one of the most important ones. So again, what are we regretting here? I mean, all our infinite karmas, the negative ones that have created harm for ourselves and others, will create harm for ourselves and others. Like poison or toxin covering the mind. I want to release myself. It's like a karmic release we want to do from that karmic energy that's stored in the consciousness, but that can be purified. So feeling some sort of bringing up this feeling of regret. Feeling tired of creating negative karma. Want to change that around. So how wonderful it is. I can have this incredible supreme method of Vajrasattva used by all the saints, holy beings, practitioners of the past. Through that method they created, purified so much karma. So how wonderful I can rely today still on Vajrasattva. And we request Vajrasattva, please, to purify all our karmic energies and their imprints, seeds and imprints since beginningless time. Then from his heart, like an arc coming round, comes out his heart, light and nectar, very powerful hose of light and nectar coming through, entering our crown and filling us up like a vase with light and nectar and cleansing karmas with the body, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and all the karmas we've created, even these immediate ones, the near immediate we talked about the other day, killing father, mother, harming bodhisattvas, drawing blood for Buddha. I mean, maybe we think we didn't do it this life, but there's karmic energies, seeds, imprints of all that there from past life. So purifying that with this hose of light and nectar. And like ink or, ink, or sometimes you can visualize like scorpions, spiders coming out and disappearing through our lower doors into the ground as we get filled up. It's flushing out all these karmic stains, especially with the body as we recite the mantra. So we're going to do the long one 3 times together and just giving you a minute to sit with that purification yourself as well, either continuing to recite the mantra or just focusing on the visualization. The hose and light and nectar flushing out through the lower doors, like the negative karmic energy. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Deno Badida Dido Me Baba Sudogayo Me Baba Suboshayo Me Baba Anorakto Me Baba Sava Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sava Gama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajra Mame Mitsa Vajra Baba Maha Samaya Sattva Humbe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Deno Badida Dido Me Baba Sudo Gashayo Me Baba Supo Shayo Me Baba Anorakto Me Baba Sava Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sava Gama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajra Mame Mitsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahumbe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Deno Badida Dido Me Baba Suto Shayo Me Baba Subo Shayo Me Baba Anorakto Me Baba Sava Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sava Gama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajra Mame Mitsa Vajra Baba Maha Samaya Sattva Ahum Be Om Vajrasattva Samaya. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Deno Badida Dido Me Baba Sudo Shayo Me Baba Subo Shayo Me Baba Anorakto Me Baba Sava Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sava Gama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Kuru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajra Mame Mitsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahumbe. So feel strongly that all the negative energy, karmas, where body are completely purified. As well as the propensity to harm others, where body again completely purified, pacified in the mind. Then purification of the speech. So again, this arc-like energy coming from Vajrasattva's heart, his great compassion for us. Light and nectar going through our crown, completely, but filling us up. Not more so much a flushing, but a filling up through the body, filling up like a vase gets filled. But also like on the top of that is all the junk, the speech karma. like oil or something sitting, or garbage sitting on the top of the water. That speech karma fills up, and that karma sits on the top, and it kind of completely dissolves, or kind of forces it up and disappears through the top of your head, top of your body, as if like we get when we're in the wind, and our hat blows off. It's a bit like that. It just blows out, get filled up, and it comes out through the top of your body, and it blows away, disappears into space. It's speech with lying, divisive speech, harsh speech, and idle gossip. The whole collection of speech that's kind of not meaningful, and it just kind of deepens a sense of self, So all that gets purified and leaves us through the upper doors, and like a wind blown off a hat being blown off in the wind. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Badida Dido me bawa Sudo Shayo me bawa Subo Shayo me bawa Anorakto me bawa Sava Siddhi me Prayatsa Sava Gama Zudza me Sitam Shriyam Guru Hong Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajra Mami Mitsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahombe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Patida Dido Me Bhava Sudo Gayo Me Bhava Subo Shayo Me Bhava Anorakto Me Bhava Sava Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sava Gama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Guru Hong Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajra Mami Mitsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahombe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Deno Badishta Dido Me Bhava Suto Shayo Me Bhava Subo Shayo Me Bhava Anorakto Me Bhava Sava Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sava Gama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Guru Hong Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajra Mami Mitsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahom Pe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Deno Padida Dido Me Bhava Suto Shayo Me Bhava Subo Shayo Me Bhava Anorakto Me Bhava Sava Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sava Gama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Guru Hong Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajra Mami Mitsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahombe. So again, how wonderful it is, all our speech karma from beginningless time, negative speech karma completely purified. Pacifying all the karmic energy to steal, to lie, create divisive speech, gossip idly, all those imprints completely purified. So now the light beam from Vajrasattva's heart comes into our heart, and like putting on the light in a room, illuminates our heart, cleansing the delusions in the mind as well as karma with the mind, especially our misunderstanding, our lack of insight into karma or wrong views that we created in the past. Purifying covetousness, ill will. So ill will is also it's a deep one, you know, blocks our body chitta. So that illuminates, like our whole heart gets filled with moon-like light. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Deno Padishta Dido Me Baba Suto Shayo Me Baba Subo Shayo Me Baba Anorakto Me Baba Sava Siddhi Me Prayata Sava Kama Sutta Me Sitam Shriyam Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajra Mami Mutsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahumbe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Deno Badida Dido Me Baba Suto Shayo Me Baba Subo Shayo Me Baba Anorakto Me Baba Sava Siddhi Me Prayata Sava Kama Sutta Me Sitam Shriyam Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajra Mami Mutsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahumbe Om Vajrasattva Samaya. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Deno Badida Dido Me Baba Suto Shayo Me Baba Subo Shayo Me Baba Anorakto Me Baba Sava Siddhi Me Prayata Sava Kama Sutta Me Sitam Shriyam Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajra Mami Mutsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahumbe. So again, all the karmas within mind, completely purified, cleansed. So the luminous aspect of the mind becomes more radiant, more clear. And then finally, last one is purifying the subtle imprints, subtle negative energy. So it's like this, you know, when we put garlic in a container, take the garlic out, there's still a smell, stain of the garlic. So like that, even though we might move up the delusions, there's still subtle, what we call subtle imprints. So we just clean them as well. Again, just with the light coming from the heart, illuminating our heart. So we'll do a few, I get one last round. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Deno Badida Dido Me Baba Suto Shayo Me Baba Subo Shayo Me Baba Anurakto Me Baba Sava Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sava Gama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Guru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajra Mami Mitsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahombe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Padida Dido Me Baba Suto Shayo Me Baba Subo Shayo Me Baba Anurakto Me Baba Sava Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sava Gama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Kuru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajra Mami Mitsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahombe Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Padida Dido Me Baba Suto Shayo Me Baba Subo Shayo Me Baba Anurakto Me Baba Sava Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sava Kama Sutsa Me Sitam Shriyam Kuru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajra Mami Mitsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahombe Om Vajrasattva Samaya. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Teno Padishta Dido Me Baba Suto Shayo Me Baba Subo Shayo Me Baba Anurakto Me Baba Sava Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sava Kama Sutsa Me Jitam Shriyam Kuru Hong Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sava Tata Gata Vajra Mami Mitsa Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahombe. So again, even the subtle imprints, the stains, completely purified. Then the last power resolve or restraint. So whatever we are, wherever we are, we're habits, the ones that are stronger, either our body, speech, and mind. Taking a moment to feel, generate some level of being able to restrain from that negative action for a certain amount of time at least. So what one or what two or three is it for us? Bring them to mind and setting ourselves a realistic timeline. Then very delighted with our purification practice. Vajrasattva slowly dissolves like mist in a mirror. And that clean, clear, radiant ball of energy comes down through our crown, unifying with our body, speech, and mind. Again, just really igniting as it moves through the crown, the quality luminosity of the mind, merges with the throat, becoming more luminous, and then moving deeper into the heart, where we get the greatest luminosity, you know, just really clear that mind. Sitting with that for a moment, totally one with the body, speech, and mind of Vajrasattva. This is me. In that place, we try to remember emptiness. In this place of emptiness, there is no I. How the I appears to us, that doesn't exist at all in our wisdom mind. No I creating negative karma. No action of creating negative karma. And no karmic seed created. This is what I experience when I realize emptiness, when I unify my mind with Vajrasattva. This is my ultimate nature. So how wonderful it is. We did this started this session with a powerful practice of Vajrasattva. And we just come out of the meditation, always thinking how wonderful it is, how amazing it is. We did this practice with a sense of joy. And we'll move in now to the rest of the class. As always, sharing the screen with some of my PowerPoints. So, yay, another purification practice. Another one. So, confession of downfalls, prostrations to the 35 Buddhas. So here we have on the right, I'm going to write when we're all looking at it. Here is this tanka. We have this beautiful tanka at Vajrapani Institute of the 35 Buddhas. So this is an image of it here, just so we see what they look like. So we're just going to go through a sort of brief explanation. So again, there's always this book. Where do we get more information? The basics are in, who has this book, Power of Mantra? Very good, yeah. Jane, yeah. Stan, you have this book? You might want to pick it up, Stan, you know, if you want. It's really good because it touches on all the deities. Not big detail, but just giving you a little insight into all the deities. You know, if you've ever got questions about who's Tara and who's this, it's just touching in. And then, as I say, when you go actually if you want to do the practice, we would start the preliminary, then you would do becoming Vajrasattva for Vajrasattva, because it goes into how you do the retreat, how you do the preliminary. Or there's actually, and I'm going to send that link to you through Bayway, along with this Vajrasattva practice. There's a link to the commentary on the 35 Buddhas by Lama Zopa Rinpoche, a deeper commentary into more of the benefits and a little bit more information how you do the practice. But certainly just to do it on a daily basis, what you get in here you get the 35 Buddhas and the Vajrasattva both in there, and that's probably enough for us to chew on a daily basis at the moment, you know. We can't fill our head with too much. The other ones are really when you decide you're going to do the preliminary practice or go into retreat, you know, and have more time in retreat. So, yes, so the 35 Buddha practice is there. That's what the tanka looks like. So this practice comes from a sutra. It's actually a sutra that was given to that was taught by the Buddha, because at the time of the Buddha there was these 35. It comes from, as you can see here, the stack of Jewel Heap Sutra, a collection of 49 Mahayana Sutra texts. So it comes from there. So Sutra taught to 35 of his students. I believe they were monks. There's slightly different interpretations of this story, but basically there were 35 students, like monks, of who felt remorse over the death of a brewer's son. So what that means is, so what happened there, let me just get my notes so I get this story a little bit clearer. But basically, these monks, as they did at the time of the Buddha, they moved around, they traveled around. And at one point they were, do you know this story, Bea? No, it's not often like shared, but this is where it came from. I always find it interesting because the sutras, a lot of them popped up, because people had challenges and problems and asked the Buddha something. It came from a question, coming from some of the disciples. Sometimes the Arya Bodhisattvas appeared and asked questions, and then the Buddha taught the sutra, or he taught it through sometimes bodhisattvas as well. So this happened because these 35 monks, they were traveling around and they spent the night with a brewer, so at the household of a brewer, and something happened with his son and he died. He died that night. And so it's a little bit clear exactly what the circumstances of the death were. So certainly the monks weren't directly responsible, but there was some sort of karmic event that happened where they were involved in the death of that son, so they felt some connection to what happened there, so they didn't intentionally get involved in the deaths, but there was some unintentional thing that happened where they were involved in the death. So they felt a kind of remorse, they thought, even though we didn't intentionally, we might have broken our vows, so they appeared, they didn't. So a root downfall is when you intend to kill. You have the four aspects, So, but here they didn't have a root downfall, but they felt like they had created a sort of, some sort of minor downfall. So they generated this wish to purify. So when they were able to speak to the Buddha, what the Buddha gave them was this 35 Buddha practice, invoking and prostrating to the 35 Buddhas. And actually there was 35 of them. So each one of them got a particular Buddha that they had to recite, I don't know how many times, So that's how the sutra came about. So you can say that these Buddhas are, sometimes it's said that there were bodhisattvas who practiced for each one. All the Buddhas were bodhisattvas at one point, and they made specific prayers to benefit sentient beings, at that time, just like the medicine Buddha practice. They made prayers. And when you become enlightened, the prayers that you made, especially in the bodhisattva path, when they're very powerful, at our level, we have some prayers, but the more we develop compassion for sentient beings, we really understand the depth of our own and other suffering, your prayers become much more powerful. Your compassion, your bodhicitta develops. And they ripen when you become a Buddha. Those prayers ripen in a certain way, and that gives you the ability, through the power of your prayer, your certain energy, bodhicitta, to benefit sentient beings in particular ways. And we're going to see that as we move through, like some of the things that the Buddhas purify. Each one purifies different things according to the prayers they made. A long way, as we know, with the 7 medicine Buddha praxis, they made all these prayers. So at the time of the Buddha, you develop this power of prayer. It's like a power of truth. There's a deep truth to what you embodied. So because our karmic connection, and we open up, we have our own power, our intention, maybe karmic connections with these Buddhas in past lives, many, many, many past lives. Those prayers can ripen on us, by chanting the names. They would make a prayer. If somebody hears my name, chants my name, by virtue of that, may they purify all this, that, and the next thing, So it kind of works like that. So the Buddha could see that, if each one of them chanted different names, that was going to purify the energy. Because even we kill unintentionally, it's coming from, there's still a harm that we cause there, We didn't do it intentionally. But, at the level of Buddha, there's no way. It's not possible to harm sentient beings. It's just not possible. Because also you have the wisdom that sees exactly how everything's going on, the dependent origination, everything. So you don't kill others. It's not possible to harm or kill others. But right now, because of karmic seeds and imprints, yes, they get lighter and lighter, but it's still pot time. We can unintentionally, as we do in our life now, unintentionally harm others. So this is kind of how the sutra came around, because of those 35 monks who wanted to purify. Sometimes it's also called, so just so we don't get confused, we can see it also called the 3 Heap Sutra, or the Sutra of the 3 Heaps. The first heap being homage and prostration to the 35 Buddhas. Paying homage means, out of sort of faith, respect, devotion, we chant the names, and it can be accompanied by the way it's developed in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition is accompanying it with prostrations. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But the homage and prostration, even if we don't do it physically, we put our hands together like this, and we pay homage and chant the names of the Buddhas, each of their, thinking about each of the qualities, how they purify different aspects of our mind. Second heap is confession. So again, it's a little bit like this power of regret, isn't it? Feeling a regret. And kind of confessions are a wee bit more like being really open and truthful about what we've done, our negativities, even though we don't know all of them. Some of them we know, some of them we don't. But this kind of truthfulness and opening up in the presence of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Sometimes we have the opportunity to do that in the presence of our gurus, confessing our negativities. That can be very powerful. Third heap, rejoicing and dedicating. So that's why it's called the 3 heaps. And we'll see when we do the practice at the end, how all of these heaps, they're all part of it. So the biggest part is reciting the names. And then there's what we call a confession prayer at the end, where we confess, and then we also rejoice in our good qualities and dedicate all the positive merit of the practice. So they're all in that sutra. And included in this, we also include the 4 powers, because any purification practice we do, we include the 4 powers there, that makes it the most powerful. That's why sometimes you see it written as confession, Bodhisattva's confession of downfalls. That's where that comes from. Because they went to the Buddha, they were Bodhisattvas, someone practicing on the path. We're all Bodhisattvas. Most of us have taken Bodhicitta vows, so Bodhisattva vows. We're aspiring to develop Bodhicitta. So for those who have taken refuge, lay vows, pratimoksha vows, we need to keep purifying, as we know, because it's hard to hold them. So for Bodhisattvas, this is powerful to keep retaining the container of the vows in our mind. We need to build up the container of our mind to develop bodhicitta. And the vows are that container. The container that kind of holds firmly and stably the realizations we want to develop. So we need the container of refuge vows, bodhisattva vows, pratimoksha vows, bodhisattva vows, and eventually tantric vows for full enlightenment. So that's what these vows are. They're a container for the mind to hold realizations. That's what they create. So these ones are particularly powerful for purifying the 35 Buddhas, for purifying, as is in the history, broken pratimoksha vows, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct like that. As in all the vows that monks and nuns hold, whether we're lay or ordained, purifying all them, because we create not major but minor downfalls all the time, small breakages. And also for bodhisattva vows. That's why they're called bodhisattva confession, just showing that also bodhisattva vows are more difficult to keep, but we can also purify them through this practice. So traditionally, they're also done for us as monks and nuns. We have to do twice a month a sojong practice. It's purification, it's a ceremony. Unfortunately, it's not easy to do in the West because you need a certain collection of monastics and there's never enough in this area. So I very rarely get to do it, in a formal setting. But when you become ordained, you come together twice a month. And it's actually on the Tibetan calendar. Anybody has a liberation calendar, you can see there's twice a month, the purifications. And we recite these 35 Buddhas because it's purifying your pratimoksha vows. And most people have taken bodhisattva vows, so it purifies them as well. So that's what it's done in connection with that. And of course, also for those of us who want to develop Lamrimali realizations, keeping the container of the mind clean, and developing this container of morality is why we need to do these praxis. The more we purify the mind of breakages in the past, downfalls in the past, we create space in our mind to be able to keep them. We've developed a strength and capacity to be able to keep them better. So how were these practiced in the... You don't see that yet. I was like, do you see my notes up there? Might be a bit odd. No, you don't, yeah. So how were these practiced? So as I say, they're practiced now in Sojong ceremonies. People do as preliminary practice, practiced in, on a daily basis as much as possible. Lama Zopa Rinpoche encouraged all the students, when we get more and more kind of serious, about developing realizations or creating at least the imprints, to daily do the 35 Buddha practice if we can in the morning, and do the Vajrasattva in the evening. That's the way Rinpoche advised, for us to try and do that on a daily basis. Because who else practiced? I mean, Lama Tsongkhapa, he did. So I had to look up, because at some point I did hear Rinpoche say that he did 100,000 prostrations for each Buddha. But then, I used to think, is that actually possible? So then I sort of, before this class, I'm thinking, I have to look up this a little bit more, because I've heard it say, But then I looked and I ChatGPT'd it and all this thing, And so what I got, and even in Rinpoche's commentary here, what I found is, I think, and I read the biography recently. I've read it a couple of times, Lama Tsongkhapa. I think I mentioned it in the class. Thupten Jinpa has written a biography about Lama Tsongkhapa. It's so inspiring. This is our tradition. He started this tradition. And I never really knew a lot about Lama Tsongkhapa, apart from what Lama Zopa Rinpoche would share, which was great. But, Geshe-la knows a lot more, having studied the vast texts and everything, But that biography is incredibly inspiring, because he wasn't just... You get the sense that he was someone who, obviously he did. He wrote an incredible amount of texts, composed a lot of texts, but he was an incredible practitioner. Unbelievable, great yogi master, I believe he is one of the 84 Mahasiddhis. He's labelled as that. They're great, great practitioners. So so when I kind of looked a wee bit more, it looks like he did something like 700,000-800,000, but that's still massive, because he did lots of other things as well, because he went away into a period of retreat when Manjushri said, even though he had thousands of disciples, he left that and went into retreat for some years, because his guru, Manjushri, who had visions of, said it'll be more beneficial and you need to deepen your realizations, So he left that and went into a very austere retreat with about 7 or 8 of his closest disciples. They went off together into the mountains to meditate for long periods of time. And in that time, he did a huge amount of prostration. So it's true. Maybe if he did 7, 8 years more intensely, maybe he did 100,000 a year, because he did many mandala offerings and other things. So anyway, he did a huge amount of... So he himself did many practices. And one of the interesting things that came out of that is, in the beginning, when, he did so many that he was having visions of the 35 Buddhas, actually appearing. But in the beginning, they appeared to him without heads. Seems a bit odd, but they appeared without heads. And then somehow he kind of referred back to the texts again, because he could read Sanskrit and Tibetan. So he would go back to the actual Indian sources. Because, of course, with different translations, things can be lost or missed. So he made great efforts to learn Sanskrit, and he would always refer back to the Indian original sutras and sources. And he found that he had to add on. So he was just saying the name of the Buddha, but he didn't recite to Tathagata. So you're going to see when we recite the sutras, you say to Tathagata jewel fire, I prostrate, to Tathagata jewel moonlight. So once he added Tathagata, the epithet, the proper way to pronounce, the heads appeared. So it's quite interesting, the more our devotion, respect, because there's, reciting the full name. So it's interesting I find that kind of interesting to think about that. The more we express the name properly, fully, there's a karmic energy there where we purify more, So he did he did a huge amount of prostration, something like 700,000. So it's still, and also for us, rather than it gets a bit kind of like, well, what about me, It's true, that's the first feeling. But then we should move on to, well, that's amazing. Not get stuck in, I can hardly do like one round a day, We want to kind of use that as an example to just to rejoice, Because if we rejoice, maybe we'll get up to doing one round a day in the morning, Creates a strong an imprint for that, an energy for that. And when I get lazy in my prostrations, when we go back to the life stories, when I think about Lama Zopa Rinpoche, Rinpoche, when he manifested the stroke, left side of the, right side of the body, was sort of paralyzed, And he was able to get some movement back, but not fully after the stroke. Rinpoche still did prostrations. So it was, and I think for us students, it's like, whoa, if Rinpoche is still putting all this effort. And again, it's not like, oh, I feel so guilty because Rinpoche, and actually, it's more like, we try and use that to kind of, of course we acknowledge kind of like, oh, and it was like that around Rinpoche. It was just like, there's no way to keep up with somebody like that, be too, but just trying to rejoice all the time. May I become like that? How wonderful that is. Just watch the mind and go into rejoicing. And I'm not there yet, but how wonderful it is, how amazing it is. Just trying to kind of move into the rejoicing rather than feeling overwhelmed or burdened or jealous of someone else because they're doing it and I can't do it, or comparing, or these things come up, for sure. But just we try, that's why rejoicing is one of the 7 limbs, because we need that limb of rejoicing. We need to get our legs. That's the legs we need to keep doing this practice. We need a lot of that. We still need to be honest with where we are, but planting these seeds of rejoicing in the great practice of the masters, especially if we end up we do our own retreats and stuff comes up and we get lazy and we get, it's very important to read a biography. I would suggest anybody, when you go into a solitude, your own retreat, when you get an opportunity, bring a biography. You read some Lam Rim and then you read like Milarepa's life story. Wow, if he can build 9-story towers 3 times on his own, I can do a round of prostrations, like that, but not like, oh, I need to do that because he did that, just slowly working with that kind of mind, inspiration, because it doesn't matter how long you've been practicing, we need constant influxes of inspiration, believe you me, don't we be? I think we all need that. We know that, but don't just think because I'm new, I need it. No. 25 years in, 30 years in, you need it all the time, and you need to find new ways because that inspired you for a while. Then you need another life story to inspire you for a while, So every time I go in, I'm like, okay, what biography am I going to bring in this time? I've read Milarepa's 3 times. So I need to bring in another one because it's not working now with the 9-story buildings, I still think it's amazing, but you just need some fresh. We need to bring freshness in as well, So like that, this is very easy compared to 9-story buildings, Milarepa had sores on his back, raw open. But, he killed like 30-something people, plus a bunch of animals. So he had to do. So we haven't done that this life, at least, We've probably got imprints of that, but he did that alone in one life. So that's why Marpa, and he wanted to achieve enlightenment, So like that, just getting perspectives, And then also the beautiful thing is, if we ever get the chance to go to Tibet, I don't know if we will, but you can actually see the place where Milarepa, not Milarepa, actually also in Tibet, you can go where there's still that 9-story building that he built is there. You can visit it. Lama Zopa Rinpoche went a few times and he said the last time he really wanted to go, but they ran out of time because it's, Tibet's fast, so you just couldn't get there. But you can visit that, that's still there. You can also visit the place Walka Valley, where Lama Tsongkhapa did most of his retreats. He loved that place. And that's the thing. We find a place where we love to do retreat. That's important. If we want to think about doing retreats, some people love Vajrapani for a retreat already, so that's great. And you'll have the opportunity there to do your own retreats sometimes as well. But yeah, finding a place where you feel really comfortable with practice is so important, because even the masters all did that, you know. So we never mind them, we need that too. Of course, even for them, a cave was really comfortable. Maybe we're not there, but you know, we get a nice cabin and aircon and whatever it is. Whatever we need right now, you know, that's okay. Make sure you have your needs met, because it's enough for us to be able to get the practices done, you know. So, but you can visit the stone slab where Lama Tsongkhapa did his prostrations, and actually you can see the imprints of the forehead, the knees, and the hands on that stone slab. So I think a couple of my friends have been there and seen the slab, you know, so you can go there, and if we ever get there, prostrate to the slab, you know, where he did his prostrations, because he did it on a stone slab, they say, you know. So, you know, we can get our nice knees and, you know, all that covered, you know. And like that, Lama Zopa Rinpoche was kind of very ascetic in that way. I mean, we just, you know, we have to be realistic where we are and what's going to bring us to do what we can, you know. And it's not about doing something so you get marks on your knees or you kind of crack your knee bones. It's not really that. And these were ancient times, different times, you know. So anyway, that's that's, you know, you can go and see that place there. And even all the old lamas, especially the ones who came for Tibet, some of my gurus, they all did 100, but it doesn't matter, 70s, 80s, as long as they could walk, get up, bow down, they were doing 100 prostrations a day, even through their 80s. So, of course, the habit was strong from when they were young, you know, doing them in the monasteries. But again, it's just things like that we hear and we think, wow, well, that's amazing, you know, so it can inspire. As I say, especially when you're in retreat or you're doing it and you get kind of lazy or uninspired, just thinking about some of the lamas, the beings, touching into the energy, all the beings who are doing it, who have done it. Asha?
Yeah, a question. So
Yes.
I hear about 100,000 prostrations. Is that something that person decides themselves to do it, or do they ask the teacher? How
Can
does
I
that
can I
happen?
answer that on Tuesday, Asha? Because on
Sure.
Tuesday, what we're going to do is go into like, what does a 100,000 preliminary, this, that, and the next thing look like? Today, I wanted to just go into the nuts and bolts of the practice. But good question, and we'll do that on Tuesday. So also we have, do the next slide. Also how it's practiced, you know, here we have in Tibet. I mean, amazing what they did in Tibet, you know, going round Mount Kailash. That was very common for the Tibetans. I think this one in the bottom might be AI generated, but you get the idea. I couldn't manage to find something that I wasn't allowed to share. So, but you get the idea, you know. And then on the right side here, you have all these Tibetans, they wear aprons. So whenever any of us get the chance to go to the East, you'll see that around holy objects. The Tibetans, they've got their aprons on. They wear these special thick aprons, and they have these kind of metal plates that they have on their hands so they can slide. And they have often something on their head so they're not getting these dents here. And they walk, you know, they walk halfway across, you know, not walk, they prostrate for long distances to go to teachings, to go to holy objects, to go to holy sites. They might start from their hometown and prostrate all the way. It might take some weeks, months to a teaching or a holy object. You know, that they take that as their practice. That's how they do their 100,000 or 200,000. They'll do it that way. You can see there, you know, prostrating in the mud. I saw some pictures online, they were prostrating in the snow as they go around Mount Kailash. But it wasn't allowing me to download that. Or they'll prostrate in Bodh Gaya when you go to India. One of the best places to do one's prostration practice is the holy sites. Because it takes up, it's easier enough to sit Vajrasattva on your cushion. There's an ease to that physically. But to do an extensive prostration, it takes a bit, another level of motivation, you know, because it's physically demanding. And so typically, you know, a lot of time we go to holy places where there's a big stupa, because the energy it just support, you get so much more energy, you know. So when you go to Bodh Gaya, where the Buddha got enlightened and the big stupas there, you see so many people. They have their boards. I think these days, we used to have boards, But now they have like rolled up linoleum. It's all new now. And you have that, and you have your knees and your things covered, and you can, slide that way and do your prostrations. As you can see here, all the Tibetans, what they're doing there, they're all in front. There's probably a temple and holy objects there, so they're all prostrating there. And you've got all these people doing it together. So it does really, really help, As it's not easy to do in the context of your own home, huge amounts. So this is how typically prostration practice is done. Now, they might not all be doing the 35 Buddhas practice here. I'm just talking about generally the practice of prostration. Because different lineages, Geluk, Kagyu, Nyingma, they have different prayers that are done with prostrations. But in the Geluk tradition, the 35 Buddha practice is commonly done along with prostrations. Okay, why reciting the 35 Buddhas is names are powerful? I've kind of touched on this already. Because the prayers they made to benefit beings, it purifies. So we tune in to the energy, the deep prayer in bodhicitta when we chant the name. It's like we're opening ourselves up. And also when we have this type of confession, openness, really wanting to purify, regret, and we chant the names, because eventually our body, speech, and mind completely unify in the place of wisdom. Right now we feel like our body's separate for our speech, or separate for our mind, but actually they're all working together all the time, So when we chant something, it's affecting our mind, our being, every aspect of our being, especially the more open we are, our intentions pure, our kind of willingness to regret, our faith in the Buddhas. When that all aligns and we chant the name, we receive the energy of that, the prayers of that being. So that's kind of how it works, As it says here, they made special prayers, may beings who confess to me by name be purified. So that ripens on us when we have the inner conditions. So I think I talked about that already. There's 30. So what are we looking at here? What kind of purification are we talking about? If you recite, the first name is Shakyamuni Buddha's name. I mean, this is like 80,000 eons. What are we talking about here? I think that's 8 eons. I think, forget the A. Maybe sometimes it's said like that, I don't know. But eons of negative karma. Reciting the name of any of the 35 Buddhas, each one purifies many eons of negative karma. So what is an eon? What's an eon? An eon is, so there's a large eon and there's like an intermediate eon. I think I did mention this in another class, but we're not always necessarily here. An eon, we can feel an eon's like, it's a long time. We'll just look, it's just a long time. No, it's thousands and thousands. It's something beyond our imagination. Again, this is where we're trying to tune into, and the more we purify, we try to get a sense of this incredible continuity, beginningless continuity consciousness that we all have, and beginningless karma we've created. There is an end to creating negative karma, believe it or not, but we're trying to, when we think about eons, an eon, so we have a kalpa, and a kalpa is it's like the largest portion of eon you can think of, thousands and billions of years, and that's when the universe forms. It kind of increases, abides, and kind of fades out. So that's, and in this kalpa, we're going to have the appearance of, and we're talking about billions of years. We're going to have 1,000 Buddhas in this good kalpa. But even within the kalpa, there's intermediate eons that are still thousands of years. So actually, I don't know. When I'm reading this, I'm like, well, what eons are they talking about? The big eons or the small eons? So I didn't get that clear for the commentaries, but we're still talking about, with every time you recite a name, we're purifying, which again, it's like, it's hard to wrap our mind around. But I think It's like once you start purifying, doing the practice, it's that at that time you start to feel into like the commentary more. That's the idea, you know. At one level, it's at an intellectual level, but the more we do the practice and we read the commentaries, we think about eons and 80 and 10th, and we're doing it, we start to feel the truth. That is true, what's going on there. I can feel the weight, the karmic energy and weight in my mind, and the actions and the intentions behind them are all getting a bit lighter. And we start to feel this kind of beginningless continuity consciousness and how it can be going back for many, 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 many lifetimes, you know. So that's how powerful, and this is why these lamas do this practice all the way through, all the time, because each name is pure, just by, even if we don't do the prostrations, it just says reciting the name, we purify all that karma. So as far as Lama Zopa Rinpoche is concerned, even if you were to lose so much wealth, you know, in Rinpoche's view, it's nothing compared to reciting the 35 Buddhas, the benefits that you can get. And this is a little bit how, in this image, I wanted to put this up because this is how Lama Zopa Rinpoche would practice. Rinpoche always you know, if you ever had, Bae, did you ever visit Lama Zopa Rinpoche's house in Aptos? So Rinpoche's houses typically were covered in holy objects, so like wall to wall. There wasn't much wall space. It was just like Buddha, 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 Buddha. And of course, that's why people say, well, what did you do at Rinpoche's house? You know, like, you know, there was a lot of cleaning to do because there were so many frames, so many pictures, and then we get more to put up and this to put up. It was just always growing. So you can see here, look at this. There's, you know, how many images there are on the wall where Rinpoche's prostrating. So many images of the 35 Buddhas. So why is it like that? Because one of the ways when we do this practice, and we're just going to do another 5 minutes and we'll take a break. When we do this practice, part of it is we try and imagine we're not just meditating to one Buddha or the 35 Buddhas. We try and spread our mind out. We're prostrating to all the 35 Buddhas, either manifest many times or all the 10 directions, Rinpoche would say, statues, stupas, scriptures. We're prostrating to all of it, anything that embodies enlightened consciousness or the teachings, textual realization, or the stupas, the Dharmakaya, enlightened mind. I'm prostrating to all of that. And we can see, if we think, oh, well, I'm prostrating to this Buddha here, this teacher here. But if you think I'm prostrating to all the Buddhas, the mind just goes a little bit more, it goes out, you know, because this is what we want the mind to go out, not go in. So even though you can't visualize all that, we think at the start, I'm prostrating to all the Buddhas, all the masters, all the gurus, all the holy objects. Even though I don't know them all, I'm going to prostrate to all of them. We just get that in the mind and then we do the prostrations. And we stop a bit and remind ourselves that's who we're prostrating to. Of course, the main objects are the 35 Buddhas, but we can just think we're prostrating to all of them everywhere. And this is what helps. You see, that visualization, that feeling, of course, really helps when you are doing that. So that's why Rinpoche would have many holy objects. Because you walk into Rinpoche's house and it's like, woo, 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 woo. And your mind's just going, woo, like that, you know. And it would feel like it's exploding sometimes, you know. But that's the idea. It's trying to open up the mind. Rinpoche would do anything to purify sentient beings, you know. He'd give up his life so we could purify a little bit, so we could create merit. He gave up his sleeping, his eating and everything many times so we could, much more important for that sentient being to purify, create merit, get enlightened, make them happy than my happiness. That was Rinpoche, you know, that's a bodhisattva. And to get that mind open like that, to get rid of that self-cherishing, self-grasping, reduce that, we need this level of purification for the mind to naturally flower and open. So this was Rinpoche's style, you know. And especially, as I said, for prostrations, we need a lot of energy out there to motivate us, like a big holy object. So now they've built this incredible stupa at Land of Medicine Buddha. And the Tibetans, in their style, beautiful, I went the other day, they've bought 2 prostration boards. And they actually come and prostrate there because the stupa's like 30 something feet high. So it's a great place for prostrations, you know, because it's you'll see it's much easier. But it doesn't mean that we can't do some every day in our home, but we do need to have kind of a juicy altar there that has an energy that's like, oh, I want to prostrate to that, you know. So that's important. Okay. one more slide and then we'll have a break. So no matter what vows you might have broken, again, just letting you know what this covers, like Vajrasattva practice. But, especially this is covering actions where, what I found this practice is very dear to me because it was the first practice that my teacher gave me, Lama Lundrup. I took refuge when I was in 25, 26 at Kopan. And of course I didn't have any other responsibilities than to hopefully engage in some more practice. I was planning to be in India anyway for another year or so. And when I took refuge, I felt like, okay, I need to do more meditation. So I went to my teacher, Lama Lundrup, who had given me refuge after the 10-day course at Kopan. And I said, I was thinking I'll just get a nice meditation practice or something. He said, do 100,000 prostrations. Well, I remember almost falling off the seat. I'm like, am I a bit new for that? But, the thing is, I had already started doing prostrations on my own. I'd started doing them before I did that was my second 10-day course. And I was in my 20s and I could already feel the benefits of prostrations, but I was doing maybe 100 a day. Maybe I'd got up to 200. I can't remember. I mean, it sounds a lot now, but, that's all I was doing. I was hanging out, doing the Dharma and doing some prostrations, So it's nice when you've got that freedom and you're healthy and strong and all that. So, but yeah, I remember thinking, how am I going to do that, And then, but yeah, I just wrapped my head around it and started to build up my body and get stronger. And I was able to complete it mostly in 3 months. But again, I did it in Bulgaria. I did it in Nepal. There's a big stupa there. I mean, it's not much easier, So, so yeah, and I do feel like a lot of my heavy karmas around the body, especially, were purified. Because, even when we're sitting, we're still using our body to meditate, but it's very different when you go up and down and, really. So I felt like the heaviness around the body, not like physically heavy, but karmic weights, body karma, I felt like that was definitely being purified. I'll tell you, mine felt so clear. It was like, whoa, this is amazing, Body felt good, mind felt good. I mean, I got sick sometimes. You're in India, the food, the water was not as great as it is. It's a bit better now in some of these places. So, but yeah, it also purifies. And I think that created a lot of space for me to, that along with the Vajrasattva, to want to ordain, So it's amazing how much you're clearing out all these karmas that are obstruct. You don't know what you're cleaning really. You just do it and you just know you're cleaning and you can feel it. But what kind of space it creates for other karmas to ripen. Because we're also blocked up with habits and all that, and then you purify them, lighten up the karmic load, and other karmas start to ripen for you that you never thought would ripen. When I started, I didn't think I was going to become a nun. I didn't think a lot of things, but I just thought I need to purify, So that, yeah, it's incredible, the levels, the breadth that can do. So let's take a 15-minute break. Is that okay? Is that enough for everyone to get a cup of tea? Do we want 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes? What do you think, Bea? You're the boss. Bea's the boss. 15's okay? Yeah. Get a refresh. It's the middle of the afternoon. So we'll see you back here at 3:35. Thank you. Got to refresh, wake ourselves up a bit at this time of the day, So it's a bit sleepy in the afternoon. So here we have, I just wanted to, let you see that there's a few, like everything, there's often slightly different lineages or visualizations of practices, and it's not that one's right or wrong. So typically we do the one on the left, and this was suggested by Lama Zopa Rinpoche, the tanka that we have at Vajrapani. Typically most of the Dharma centers have that image, because for us it's easier to visualize the 35 Buddhas like this. And what this image is actually is and I'm going to mention in a few slides along what the 5 Buddha families are. But these are the blue ones. So on the right, what we have is all the different Buddhas with different colors, kind of around Shakyamuni Buddha. And this is the way that I think Lamas on Kappa and some of the Lamas actually saw the Buddhas appear, and they hold different symbols and implements and different colors. But for us to visualize that's quite difficult, So Lamas Rinpoche, there's another lineage where you can visualize the 35 Buddhas and the aspect of the 5 Buddha families. So the first line is blue, that's a bit easier, and that's Akshobhya family. They're all in the aspect of the Buddha Akshobhya. The second one is the Vajrasattva and the aspect of the Buddha Vajrasattva. The other family, Ratnasambhava, in yellow in colour. Fourth one, red in colour, is Amitabha, and the last one is Amoghasiddhi. So how they manifest, you see, from the heart, and there's another slide we'll see here, move in here. But, what we visualize here is Shakyamuni Buddha. Now, these aren't always the Buddhas on the sides. I actually don't know who they all are. I know the one here is to the Buddha's right at the top is Vajrasattva. The one on the left bottom is Namgyalma, is a long life deity. And I'm not actually sure what the other... I think this one actually, that's right. I think the one on the bottom left below Vajrasattva's purification deity, Kunrig. I believe that's Kunrig. And it's for powerful purification. And the other one is, I'm not sure if it's an aspect of Vajrayana, but that's not so important, those ones there. What's important for us is thinking, Shakyamuni Buddha is in the center, and in his heart is the Buddha of compassion, Chenrezig. And from there, the heart of Chenrezig, or the Buddha's compassion for us, that's what that's signifying. Out of the Buddha's compassion for us manifests the 35 Buddhas. On light rays. All these light rays come out for the heart of Shakyamuni Buddha and Chenrezig and appear in the aspect of the 35 Buddhas. As it says on the right here, Buddha loved us so much that he gave us this practice of the 35 Buddhas that manifested out his heart for us. And here we're seeing, the first one, very first name we recite, founder Bhagavan Tathagata, perfectly completed Buddha, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni Buddha, I prostrate, purifying, as I said, 80,000 eons of negative karma. So that's how the visualization starts. And then we just, they go down, 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 down through the lines. And of course, it's going to be hard for us to visualize that. So I've put in I'll send out to you, there's a link, Venerable Yonten's put a really beautiful video together, 17 minutes of her chanting the names. Have you come across it? And each of the Buddhas and what each of them purify. I mean, she's very gifted at putting together the PowerPoints. Mine's are baby style compared to that. But I really recommend you to look at it, and you can stop at each one and it tells you which each one purifies and the name. And that's a nice way to, listen and chant along too. But ideally, we want to learn the names because that's the power comes for chanting the names. So I'm not going to go through all the 35 Buddhas and what they purify, because that you can find in the Power Mantra. But just to give us an idea, the first one, purifying 10,000 eons of negative karma. And also by reciting this, we get enlightened. Next one, purifying 10,000 eons of negative karma again. And we're reciting this, all our wishes get fulfilled, as well as it brings long life. So this is what each of these Buddhas would have prayed for on their path. And that ripens, they have the power through chanting the name again, the power for us to receive that as we chant the name and prostrate. This one, so all the rest of them, they're all blue, red, yellow, but the only one here is the one that the King of the Lord Nagas, he has a white head. And that's symbolizing purifying harm for Nagas, spirits. Nagas are like spirits that can cause sickness, disease, when we don't see them and sometimes we harm Nagas inadvertently, depending on, what we do in nature sometimes, picking up stones that maybe belong to Nagas, cutting down trees that spirits live in. We don't see that we're doing that, and it can create harms and sickness, disease. So to pass that chanting that name pacifies harm that we might receive for that. A lot of the time, when one great yogi lama Geshe Lama Konchok, who lived at Kopan for many years, he was very powerful healer. And when he came to the West and he went into a hospital, and Geshe Tenzin Zopa was his main disciple, he's coming to the area in a couple of weeks. So Geshe Lama Konchok would often said that a lot of the people who were sick had naga harm, you know, but the doctors can't see that. That's why the medicines don't necessarily work. So chanting the name of this Buddha can purify naga harm as well as 1,000 eons of karma. The other one's purifying gossiping, negative karma around speech. So we see each one purifying, which is very important. We need to purify. It's like taking pills from the different problems, pollutions, negativities in the mind. Purifying eons of negative karma, 2,000. The other one, 100,000 eons of negative karma, causing disunity in the Sangha. Now, that was one of the, a schism in the Sanghas. Like, I think that's the main, you know, heavy negative karma, an immediate one. Sends you immediately to the hell if you cause a schism. But sometimes we don't cause a complete split in the Sangha, but a little bit of disharmony. That's also very, very heavy. So whether we're a monastic or not a monastic, either way, that can cause a lot. It's very heavy. So that's purifying along with the 5 immediate negativities, purifying that, you know. So again, these are all things we've got sitting in the mental continuum that create problems, obstacles, heaviness of the mind, resistance, inability to practice virtue. Mind gets heavy at times. And, you know, so when we're purifying again, I have to mention, you know, there's times we've done a bit of purification, then stuff comes up. We get a bit sick. Mental problem. That can be a sign of purification. And so we need to go through that and be patient with that when purification comes out, you know, like it means that we're purifying in a way that we're not experiencing it in a heavy way, but we still have to experience some result at this life. So here's just more layers of the Buddhas, just seeing them a wee bit more closely. Let me just check my notes. Anything else I want to say? Connection with these. Oh yes, also that they're seated on elephant thrones here, as you can see. I wanted to point that out as well. So usually, what usually, it's a little bit harder to see in there, but that's an elephant. What usually is the Buddha seated on? What kind of throne?
Lion.
What animal usually is the Buddha held up by on his throne? Anyone remember?
Lion.
Lion thrones, yeah? Lion showing that quality of fearlessness. So what do you think? What does a Buddha, what does a white, not a white Buddha, white elephant, what do you think that signifies? What is wisdom? That's true. Yeah, that's true. I mean, wisdom, yes, white, yeah, but something more specific why it's elephant. I mean, I'm not expecting you necessarily get it, but somebody might have read it already and know. Anna Marie, you have any recollection? Why it's a white elephant in this
I
case?
don't recall off the top
Yeah.
of my head. Sorry.
So white elephant, well, elephant's the most powerful animal, right? Power. So it's a power. So what they're seated on elephant thrones to show the purification powers of the Buddhas in their names. They're very powerful. And also the elephants are white to show that quality, purity, purification. And also the thrones are around them have pearls, white pearls, again, showing this kind of, because showing this is the main point of the practice, powerful purification, you know. So giving that sense of the power of the practice. So we talked a little bit about the concept of eons, you know. So also I wanted to point out, I just need to find the book. I didn't bring the book. So for example, you know, we have these different Buddhas. I'm not going to go through what they all purify, because that would be a whole other class. But just in a nutshell, just to show some of the comparisons. So some of the Buddhas, as we can see, they purify like so many eons of negative karma. That's the main thing that they wanted to, they prayed for. And some of them, for example, the Buddha 25. So, the one lotus light rays clearly knowing by play, one of the Buddhas purifying 7,000 eons of negative karma. That's his main job, That's what he prayed for, So that's what we receive as we keep doing the practice, we keep purifying that amount of karma. Whereas we go to Buddha number 27, glorious mindfulness, and he purifies negative karma of criticizing holy beings. So that's more about the action, purifying an action, a heaviness. Because, of course, holy beings only have our best intentions. So criticizing them because their power is heavy for us, We're not feeling their bodhicitta. We're sort of blocked off to that and thinking, who are they all about? And And it creates because of the power of the object, the power of their mind, that's something very heavy for us. So that's what that one's purifying, those kind of action, that heaviness. And then number 29, king holding the victory banner foremost power, purifies having caused other sentient beings to collect negative karma. This one's more particularly, and it's the green in colour, which related to purifying jealousy, actually, which I'm going to talk about the 5 Buddha families next. It's purifying a delusion. The delusion of pride and jealousy. That's the main thing. So some are more purifying our actions, specific karmas. Some are just generally purifying like eons, a timeline of negative karma. And others are focused on a delusion that they're purifying. So that's mostly how the Buddhas are, some delusion, some are focused on a length of time, and some are on like a negativity that's particularly heavy, like something like disunity among the Sangha, or criticizing holy beings or your guru there, because it's so heavy, there's just one Buddha prayed for that, So of course, as we recite them all, everyone gets covered. That's the idea. We get covered by all of them, So that's why the Buddha chose those 35, because each of these Buddhas, bodhisattvas, as they were practicing, it's like they all prayed for different things, so it just all gets covered, in that practice. That's a skill of the Buddha when he put this practice together for those monastics. Because even then he could see the seeds, the karmas, that even though the monks, those 35 monks, didn't mean to be involved in that the whole interplay of the death of the brewer's son, the karma's still there, so they had some involvement, even if they didn't intend to, because there's still some karma there that needed to happen. So even to be able to avoid even that in the future, we need these levels of purification, So I wanted to just go quickly over, because even in the Vajrasattva practice, so we'll do about another 15-20 minutes, and then we're going to do about 15 minutes of reciting the practice together. So even in the Vajrasattva practice, so again, this is just, of course, here now, this is the last layer of the Buddhas, and included in this practice, at the very bottom here, or the second row up from the bottom, is the 7 medicine Buddhas. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche also wanted to include the 7 medicine Buddhas, because again, when we recite their names, as we see in the Medicine Buddha Puja, which we'll just go over a bit more in the when we do the puja ritual class, in that practice, and even in that practice, we don't necessarily go up and prostrate, but just each of these Buddhas prayed. There was like different vows and prayers they made by reciting their names. So Rinpoche included those to be recited as well in the practice. And at the bottom are offering goddesses, which we often see in tankas, offerings, or either sometimes you just see offerings, flowers and lights, or other times you'll see offering goddesses offering specific offerings. I think here there might be, I'm not sure, maybe the 7 or 8 types of offerings, fruits and flowers and incense and light. I think those are all there, each goddess offering that. And of course, when you're at the level of your mind's very pure, you can see these goddesses offering you things, They do appear like that. So in terms of the 5 Buddha families, just very briefly, because again, this could be a whole class, but I wanted to mention that because I said that the aspect that we do in this practice, and there's 2 aspects of the 35 Buddhas, main ones. We're doing the one where they're in the aspect of the 5 types, Buddha types or families. And there's a blue one is, so a Buddha that's blue in colour generally is not necessarily at the level of high Yoga Tantra, but certainly I think Kriya Tantra. Most of the blue coloured Buddhas are Akshobhya. You know, certainly in this practice on the top, they're from the Akshobhya family. And blue, you know, each Buddha family is related to a delusion. So generally the colours that are blue in colour, they purify anger. And when anger's purified, we develop mirror-like wisdom. There's 5 wisdoms. So even in the Vajrasattva practice, when we say ha, 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 ho, that symbolises, that's the 5 wisdoms. So when I send you this Vajrasattva practice that Venerable Rubina put together, I made a few edits, but not much, you know, it was mostly Venerable Rubina. I added to the bottom of it, I think the different, the 4 powers, what they each purify in terms of the result similar to the clause and the environmental result. I added that. And you'll also see at the bottom that Venerable Rubina put the meaning of the Vajrasattva mantra, which is quite nice, again, when you're doing a practice over time, to just connect with the meaning of some of the syllables. You know, what are we doing there? You know, what are we invoking? What are we inviting? What are the qualities of Vajrasattva? And within that, it's the ha 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 ho, is the 5 Buddha families. So sometimes what Lama Zopa Rinpoche would do, many times when he went to stupas and holy objects, and you see here, we have attached to, you won't see here online, but when we offer mandalas at teachings, we have these 5 colour katas coming from the mandala. These symbolize the five wisdoms. So yeah, we want to realize the wisdom realizing emptiness, but within that, there's actually 5 aspects of that wisdom when it's fully developed, called the 5 wisdoms. And they manifest, they ripen when we've fully purified anger. When anger is fully purified, we achieve mirror-like wisdom. When ignorance is fully purified, we have the wisdom Dharma Dhatu. It basically means that it's more like a nature wisdom, realizing the nature of phenomena. When pride is fully purified, we develop the wisdom of equality. If an attachment's fully purified, and desire, discriminating wisdom, and green, when Amoghasiddhi, and jealousy, when we accomplish the state of Amoghasiddhi, or jealousy is fully purified, and we accomplish the state of Amoghasiddhi, we also accomplish all-encompassing wisdom. So again, there's a lot more to what those 5 wisdoms are, but just to kind of, you know, relate a little bit what 5 colours, you know, we see these 5 colours, they're all related to a 5 wisdom. And when we achieve the rainbow body, these are the 5 colours, the aspects of the rainbow body. And we can see when we visualise any type of Buddha, they usually fall into one of these colours, you know, because they're related to that type of wisdom. Okay, so far? So, prostrations, again, just very briefly going into this. Most of us know how to do prostrations, so I just want to go through this very briefly. For any of us who might not know, the main reason, of course, we're purifying, but pride, spiritual pride, blockedness, a lack of openness, closed-mindedness, that's really what the Buddha's prostrations purify. That's the big one, you know, along with all the different karmas as well. Opening up our mind more and more, being less closed. And yeah, this is just different aspects. You know, we're also, when we prostrate, when we chant the names, we're using our body, speech and mind in a very full and powerful way to purify. So even we just do 3 prostrations, you know, we have all these benefits every time we prostrate. These are other benefits that Lama Zopa Rinpoche mentioned when we put our palms together. Just putting your palms together, never mind prostrating. We receive a perfect body, beautiful body, perfect surroundings. So all these things are important, you know. We need a sangha, we need a good surrounding to practice. We'll be able to live in morality, have devotion, have a brave mind to practice Dharma, courageous mind, that's also important. Be born as a Deva human, achieve the Arya path, which means we will have a direct perception of emptiness and we'll achieve enlightenment. That's just by, I think I shared the story before, how when Lama Zopa Rinpoche manifested the stroke, how he felt a sense of loss because there was a time he couldn't even move his right hand to do this mudra, you know, when he was offering his prayers and his food and everything. Rinpoche, you know, there was a time when he wasn't even able to do that, you know. I think one of the monastics helped Rinpoche move his arm. So, you know, again, at that level, if a great master is saying that, then, you know, these are, and again, it is quite a simple thing, you know, in a way. But we just need to bring it into our habit, isn't it? How do we do the mudra? Most of us know, like this, yeah. So this one's namaste, when we don't put the hands in there. And when we put the fingers in there, that's the right mudra in this tradition. Now, you might come across other Buddhist traditions when they don't do that. You know, they just do more like the namaste, you know. And that's their tradition, that's fine. But there's a meaning behind why we do that. And that's on here, you know. So just you read that through that for a moment. Left hand signifying the wisdom, right hand method, and the two thumbs inside becoming wish fulfilling, showing we're practicing the Mahayana path, you know, which means we want to become wish fulfilling for all beings, develop bodhicitta. This is a little cuddly toy where Rinpoche put it all on the cuddly toy. It's all written on there. Someday would have received that toy at some point. Rinpoche gave one of my friends 500,000 prostrations to do. She's actually done them, you know. I mean, over many years. She told me a story. What slide are we on? 43. She told me when it's so funny, you know, because you needed to develop. I mean, talk about brave heart. If you wanted to go and ask Rinpoche for your preliminary practices, you needed to be ready because you're going to get a lot, you know. It's very rare you just got like a couple of things. So you needed to kind of build up your brave heart, you know, your momentum, your determination, and also just realize you have to create space in your life for that, you know. You have to be realistic. So, of course, she got to this point where she was like, okay, I'm going to ask Rinpoche, you know. So you're preparing your mind for a list, you know. It's life practice. So it's so funny. She's like, so she, you know, at that time at Kopan, usually I think she was at the Kopan course, and towards the end of the course, different people got appointments, and your appointment was usually around 11 or midnight, and there'd be 3 or 4 of you, you know, and you'd be in Rinpoche's presence, and Rinpoche would, you know, everybody got to ask their questions, you know. So when it came to her, she was like, okay, I'm going to ask for my list of practices. So she said to Rinpoche, no, please, I would like my Ngöndro practices, my preliminary practice. And so she's, you know, expecting a fair amount. So she's like writing it down, and in her mind, she's thinking, yeah, that's okay, you know, not too bad, you know, because so 100,000 this, 100,000 that, maybe a couple of 100,000 this. So, but she's, you know, and then she said Rinpoche gave her 100,000. One of them was 100,000. But she's like, oh, yeah, that's not too bad. And also she played tennis and all that, so she was kind of quite physical anyway. So, you know, she got the list, and she's like, oh well, you know, like there's something. Yeah, but I think somehow when Rinpoche said prostrations, 100,000, I think she thought, oh, well, that's not too bad. And then at the end, Rinpoche says, how many prostrations did I give you again? She says 100,000. And Rinpoche went, 500,000. And she went, and then she said at the end of the appointment, you know, usually at the end, Rinpoche would take you around his holy objects in his room, show you around, and then, you know, he would give you a gift. And then, so she's, you know, in her mind, and then she thought, well, I mean, maybe it'll be next life, you know, I'll get this done. You know, I don't know if I'll get it all done this life, something like that, you know, because, you know, after the 500,000, there was a few more. She's like, oh, I don't know. Yeah. And so then when Rinpoche came to Rinpoche again to kind of offer the kata to leave, and she had, you know, she'd already had this thought, maybe the next life. And Rinpoche says, and that'll be for this life. And she went, and she's like, stop thinking, you know. she didn't do it, but in her mind she's saying, I can't stop thinking, because... And the way she tells it, sometimes it's really funny, So I love that story, But, amazing, she did do it, but you just determine, how long it's going to take you, So there you go. So this one, and then just roughly, I just wanted to, how we do prostration. So this is how we do the short one. Is anyone not clear actually here how we do prostrations? Has anybody got any questions around that? Not looking at everyone there. No questions. So this is the short one there. This is the long one. Main thing is watch your back. If we are going to prostrate, so with this practice, because the main thing is the 35 Buddha practice here, we can either do it with or without prostrations. If physically we can't do the prostrations, I mean, really we have like a knee problem or a back problem, we don't do. We're going to, you can recite. I have a friend who she gave a certain amount of recitation to do that practice every day, not the physical prostration, for some reason, maybe with her. I know someone else who was determined they wanted to do prostrations, and Rinpoche told them not to do prostrations, but they decided they were going to do them. They went to Bodh Gaya to do them and they hurt their back. So, and they had quite a serious injury with their back. And Rinpoche had actually said to them, don't prostrate, So this is when you have to listen to the guru. Because sometimes we think we're going to do this and we don't, you don't hear. So again, we work with where we're at. Because as I said, just reciting the names, as it says in the text, very powerful, especially with the 4 opponent powers with confession. Stan.
Yes. I have a question about the actual method of prostration. I've not done this full-length prostration, but I've done plenty of the other short prostration. And I'm just wondering about what, is there something that one says? I mean, when I'm taking refuge, when I'm doing my practice, I do manjushri.
The mantra. So how we do these prostrations, Stan, is, we do the mantra, and then, again, this is the thing, the difficult thing with this, the challenge with this practice is we need to start memorizing the names. Because when you prostrate, you want to be chanting the names. So this is the physical, how you do it. So how do we actually do the practice, So, as I mentioned before, when we visualize the 35 Buddhas we have in front, but we try to imagine that we're prostrating to all the, Bodh Gaya, all the holy objects, maybe especially one that's very inspiring for you, If you've seen a holy object you're inspiring, it can include something like Mount Kailash or whatever, have a picture of it in your room, have a picture of the Bodh Gaya stupa, something that really inspires you is great. Why I've got this image here, it's not the style in this tradition we do prostrations, but the other thing is, what makes the practice very powerful is if you can imagine many, many bodies, your infinite lives, like this kind of multiplying effect in this image. I mean, again, to get all the components takes a while, you're not going to get it all at once, but it's like your whole the whole earth is covered with your bodies of past lives and also all sentient beings. It's just like going out as far as you can see, like grains of sand on the beach or something, So that's how you do. If you have the Chenrezig empowerment, you can imagine yourself as Chenrezig in a light body, but not thinking you are Chenrezig, just as the aspect to Chenrezig. Again, or just we think we're our ordinary self, whatever's easier for the mind. But also our body being very big. So many lifetimes, because it's like there's a power in how much of the atoms of the earth. So they say actually if you have a big body, that's even better. Prostrating, because you cover more particles of the earth. There's all these purification benefits to that you can read more in the commentary on the 35 Buddhas. But even we imagine many, many lifetimes, and we're covering the earth like that, And we're prostrating together. So when you prostrate, and we're going to see this in the practice, because that's what we're going to go on to next. As you say, Stam, we start with the Om Manjushri mantra. because it multiplies. So we start Om Namo Manjushri, we do that 3 times. And then, so we've memorized that, so we can prostrate with that mantra. Right now, we haven't memorized the 35 Buddhas. So what I want to do when we move into the practice now is, this is just the meaning of the mantra for those of you who might be interested for that mantra. But what I would like to do as we move into the practice is, so Rinpoche's suggestion is for each Buddha, when we prostrate once and we say the name 3 times. So what I would like to do now, maybe what I'll do is move into, and I think I forgot to pull that up. So just give me a moment. I actually forgot to pull the practice up at the bottom of my screen. So I think, who here can't do isn't going to do at the moment prostrating. I think most of us here in the Gompa are going to prostrate, but is there anybody at home who's not going to physically prostrate when we do the practice? Which is fine, don't feel shy about it, because I'm actually looking for somebody who might want to chant the names. Joe. So what I'm going to ask you, Joe, is to be the chant master.
Can I withdraw
that
that
okay?
thumb?
Eh?
Can I withdraw that thumb? I didn't anticipate what was coming next.
Oh yeah, okay.
I feel tricked.
Oh, okay, that's fair enough. Someone else who might not be, and again, don't feel like, oh, I'm embarrassed because I'm not doing them or something. Is there any, are we all going to prostrate then? Because if everybody would like to prostrate, I will chant the names. That's fine. But so how we're going to do it, so let me just find the practice on my computer first, because that's the only thing I didn't pull up at the beginning. Which text am I going to look at? Okay, here we go, Retreat Prayer Book. I need to find the page in here. .35, page number 41. Okay. So I'm going to share the practice now, so we just generally go through it. I had a few more slides there and a bit more to say about the practice, but I do want us to just do the practice today. So again, how many of you, this is your first time to do 35 Buddha practice? There's a few. How many online? First time? Yep. Stan? Jane, you've done before? Yep. So, well, that's good. We're not super new to it, but quite a few of us are here. So that's good, because then we'll learn a little bit more how to do the prostration. So again, this is the extensive. So you can find this. I will send a link to where you can find this. But this is the very extensive motivation by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. You don't have to do that all the time, depending on your time. The main thing is to develop the opponent power of regret and confession, and this is going through the visualization. We don't have an image of the 35 Buddhas here, do you? And unfortunately, I can't put the text up. Actually, what I can do, because I'm doing the prostrations, I'm going to put the image of the 35 Buddhas up, because I can also read the text at the same time. Unless, I think some of us at home, because Joe, if you're not doing no, I think I'll leave the text up, because Joe will want to. Joe, you should read along with me, even though you're not the Umzi. You're not the chant master, but you can read along. That's where where we get the most benefit. So how I want to do it is, this is how typically you do. Try and recite each name 3 times and prostrate, and you can do it while you're prostrating or before, As we learn the names, you can do it at the same time. You can prostrate and recite at the same time. So we start off with, we start off here. There's a couple of mantras we say to multiply the, Rinpoche always has these multiplying mantras. So every time we do these first, multiplies the energy of the practice. It says here at 1,000 times is the Manjushri mantra, and these all have a multiplying quality as well when you recite these names. But the main body of the practice starts here. The first name is, no, it doesn't start there. It starts here. So we're going to do it because, we're going to do it in a more simple way. As we progress in the practice, we can add the multiplying mantras and like that. But we're just going to start with Om Namo Manjushri and move into the homage to the confession of the Bodhisattva's downfalls. But as you get more familiar, we can add some of these mantras as we learn them, because they all have a different benefit, some of these multiplying mantras at the start. But the practice really starts with Om Namo Manjushri and then the homage and taking refuge. That's the first power of reliance, And we usually generate this type of regret before we start the practice. So as we move through the practice, we recite each of the names and we visualize purification, light and nectar coming from the different Buddhas. I mean, because we can't visualize all the Buddhas, we just think, I'm reciting the name, I'm receiving purifying nectar and all the Buddhas and everybody's there, We just think like that. Trying to think all our past lives, all our bodies, we're all prostrating together. If we just hold that, that'll be very good. So it says here, even if you do listening to a recording, so what I'd like to do here is when I chant the name the first time, then you all chant it twice together, then prostrate. Then we'll do the next one. I'll recite the first, you do twice, or even if you take a couple of times to pick it up, but try and do once and then you prostrate, So that's how we're going to do today, just to get a little bit of rhythm. So when you listen to Venerable Yonten's recording, did I mention that to the group here, or was it? Yeah, I did mention to everyone. So I'm going to send you the link of Venerable Yonten doing the slide. You're doing this. She recites them 3 times, so that's similar. If you're prostrating, you can listen, grab the first 2, and then maybe prostrate. But I think the recording, I think there's a slower recording and a faster recording. But that's one way to start to learn. Another way, how I learned the prostrations was I learned one name. And then after a few days, I learned another name. So I would just prostrate with the one name, and then I'd finish and recite the rest of the names, and then finish the sutra. And then after a few days, I'd learn another name, and I'd do the 2 names, prostrate, and then I'd finish the sutra. So I built it up like that, because to try and remember them all at the same, there's no possible, So I learned one, I just decided, every week I'd learn 2 or 3 names. Of course, I was doing it very intensely, so maybe if you want to pick up the, you decide, okay, I'm just going to pick up the one name, and then the rest I'll do just reciting, and then I'll finish the prayer like that. But I'll do some prostrations just for one name. That's one way to do it. But of course, if you do it regularly and you listen to the recording, over time you will start picking up the names, anyway. So there's different ways to do it. Okay, so should we start? Because we're on 4:15. So all of us who want to get up, get ourselves into the place of prostration, getting ready for prostrations. I'll just lead a very brief motivation, and then we'll start together. And Joe, you can read along with me. And of course, we'll do them all in English. Where am I? The beginning. Oh, here, start with Om Namo Manjushri.
Is this the one you did the other day?
So, Joe, when we're not prostrating, when you're not physically prostrating, we keep our hands together like that. We still prostrate mentally. So all these visualizations, if you can't prostrate physically, you still think that the Buddhas are there. I've got all my past lives, and I'm mentally prostrating to the feet of all these Buddhas. We mentally do it, But the main thing is, this mudra, that's why I mentioned the benefits that we keep the mudra here, and that's our physical practice, keeping the mudra here, So I might not be like this all the time because I have to scroll the page, but I'll do my best. We're just getting the room ready for prostrations. Getting ourselves ready. And, if you don't pick the names up, even on the 3rd recitation, don't worry too much, but we'll try. Some of you might not be able to pick it up. Some of them are quite short. Some of them are a bit longer. So the short ones you'll be able to pick up for sure after the 1st or 2nd recitation. But the other ones maybe not right away, so don't worry too much. But we're going to start with Om Namo Manjushri. So just getting ourselves in a place, and again, we're just doing it very briefly here because we're a bit shorter on time. And we're going to start with the power of regret you know, just bringing to mind that power of regret. As we feel and know it, what our understanding of that is. All the deep negativities, the karmic habits, actions we've done, that whole field that we need to kind of cleanse, purify in the mind. Having a sense of regret and a strong wish to purify. We don't want to carry that into our future lives. Either the habit or the result, you know, none of those we want to experience in future lives. So as much as possible, genuine regret that we were under control in the past and a strong wish to purify. Not just for ourselves, but for all sentient beings as vast as space. So we become like the Buddhas, these great holy beings, bodhisattvas. We develop the power of prayer. Our names become powerful for others. Om Namo Manjushri Nama Sushri Nama Utama Shri Soha. Om Namo Manjushri Nama Sushri Nama Utama Shri Soha. Om Namo Manjushri Nama Sushri Nama Utama Shri Soha. Homage to the confession of the Bodhisattva's downfall. I, say your name, shall at all times take refuge in the Guru, take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. So we start with the names. To Guru, Teacher, Bhagawan, Tathagata, Arhat, Perfectly Complete Buddha, Glorious Conqueror, Shakyamuni Buddha, I prostrate. To Guru, Teacher, Bhagawan, Tathagata, Arhat, Perfectly Complete Buddha, Glorious Conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate. To Guru, Teacher, Bhagawan, Tathagata, Arhat, Perfectly Complete Buddha, Glorious Conqueror, Shakyamuni, I prostrate. So we're just taking a gap so that people can... Usually you wouldn't have this gap, you just keep going, but we'll do it just so it allows you to prostrate. To Tathagata, thoroughly destroying with Vajra essence, I prostrate. To Tathagata, thoroughly destroying with Vajra essence, I prostrate. To Tathagata, thoroughly destroying with Vajra essence, I prostrate. So these Buddhas are blue in colour. You know, I didn't go through the extensive visualization, but we have all these Buddhas here. Blue in colour, the first row, purifying, related to Akshobhya Vajra, purifying anger. To Tathagata, radiant jewel, I prostrate. To Tathagata, radiant jewel, I prostrate. To Tathagata, radiant jewel, I prostrate. Infinite bodies covering the earth, all our past lives. To Tathagata, King Lord of the Nagas, I prostrate. To Tathagata, King Lord of the Nagas, I prostrate. To Tathagata, King Lord of the Nagas, I prostrate. To Tathagata, Army of Heroes, I prostrate. To Tathagata, Army of Heroes, I prostrate. To Tathagata, Army of Heroes, I prostrate. To Tathagata, Delighted Hero, I prostrate. To Tathagata, Delighted Hero, I prostrate. To Tathagata, Delighted Hero, I prostrate. To Tathagata, Jewel Fire, I prostrate. To Tathagata, Jewel Fire, I prostrate. To Tathagata, Jewel Fire, I prostrate. Next row, white in colour, related to Buddha Vairocana, purifying ignorance. To Tathagata, Jewel Moonlight, I prostrate. To Tathagata, Jewel Moonlight, I prostrate. To Tathagata, Jewel Moonlight, I prostrate. To Tathagata, meaningful to see, I prostrate. To Tathagata, meaningful to see, I prostrate. To Tathagata, meaningful to see, I prostrate. To Tathagata, Jewel Moon, I prostrate. To Tathagata, Jewel Moon, I prostrate. To Tathagata, Jewel Moon, I prostrate. So again, we're prostrating to all the 10 directions, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, statues, stupas, scriptures. To Tathagata stainless one, I prostrate. To Tathagata stainless one, I prostrate. To Tathagata stainless one, I prostrate. To Tathagata bestowed with courage, I prostrate. To Tathagata bestowed with courage, I prostrate. To Tathagata bestowed with courage, I prostrate. To Tathagata, pure one, I prostrate. To Tathagata, pure one, I prostrate. To Tathagata, pure one, I prostrate. To Tathagata bestowed with purity, I prostrate. To Tathagata bestowed with purity, I prostrate. To Tathagata bestowed with purity, I prostrate. Next row, yellow in colour, purifying pride, miserliness. To Tathagata water god, I prostrate. To Tathagata water god, I prostrate. To Tathagata water god, I prostrate. To Tathagata deity the water god, I prostrate. To Tathagata deity the water god, I prostrate. To Tathagata deity the water god, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious goodness, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious goodness, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious goodness, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious sandalwood, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious sandalwood, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious sandalwood, I prostrate. To Tathagata infinite splendor, I prostrate. To Tathagata infinite splendor, I prostrate. To Tathagata infinite splendor, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious light, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious light, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious light, I prostrate. To Tathagata sorrowless glory, I prostrate. To Tathagata sorrowless glory, I prostrate. To Tathagata sorrowless glory, I prostrate. Now the red colour, the red row. Non-discriminating wisdom and purifying desire, attachment, energy. To Tathagata son of non-craving, I prostrate. To Tathagata son of non-craving, I prostrate. To Tathagata son of non-craving, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious flower, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious flower, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious flower, I prostrate. To Tathagata pure light rays clearly knowing by play, I prostrate. To Tathagata pure light rays clear knowing by play, I prostrate. To Tathagata pure light rays clear knowing by play, I prostrate. To Tathagata lotus light rays clear knowing by play, I prostrate. To Tathagata lotus light rays clear knowing by play, I prostrate. To Tathagata lotus light rays clear knowing by play, I prostrate. I'll just go a bit faster now. To Tathagata glorious wealth, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious wealth, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious wealth, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious mindfulness, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious mindfulness, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious mindfulness, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious name widely renowned, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious name widely renowned, I prostrate. To Tathagata glorious name widely renowned, I prostrate. To Tathagata king holding the victory banner, foremost power, I prostrate. To Tathagata king holding the victory banner, foremost power, I prostrate. To Tathagata king holding victory banner, foremost power, I prostrate. We're on the green ones now. Purifying envy. Tathagata glorious, totally glorious one totally subduing, I prostrate. Tathagata glorious one totally subduing, I prostrate. Tathagata glorious one totally subduing, I prostrate. Tathagata utterly victorious in battle, I prostrate. Tathagata utterly victorious in battle, I prostrate. Tathagata utterly victorious in battle, I prostrate. Tathagata glorious transcendence through subduing, I prostrate. Tathagata glorious transcendence through subduing, I prostrate. Tathagata glorious transcendence through subduing, I prostrate. Tathagata glorious manifestations illuminating all, I prostrate. Tathagata glorious manifestations illuminating all, I prostrate. Tathagata, glorious manifestations illuminating all, I prostrate. Tathagata, all subduing jewel lotus, I prostrate. Tathagata, all subduing jewel lotus, I prostrate. Tathagata, all subduing jewel lotus, I prostrate. Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, King Lord of the mountains, firmly seated on jewel and lotus, I prostrate. Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, King Lord of the mountains, firmly seated on jewel and lotus, I prostrate. Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, King Lord of the mountains, firmly seated on jewel and lotus, I prostrate. Bhagawan, the seven medicine Buddhas. Bhagawan Tathagata Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, renowned glorious King of excellent signs, I prostrate. We usually just say these one time, so I'll just recite them. Bhagawan Tathagata Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, King of melodious sound, brilliant reason of skill, adorned with jewels, moon and lotus, I prostrate. To Bhagawan Tathagata Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, stainless excellent gold, illuminating jewel, accomplishes all conduct, I prostrate. Bhagawan Tathagata Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, glorious supreme one, free from sorrow, I prostrate. To Bhagawan Tathagata Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, melodious ocean of proclaimed Dharma, I prostrate. To the Bhagawan Tathagata Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, King clearly knowing by the play of supreme wisdom and ocean of Dharma, I prostrate. To Bhagawan Tathagata Arhat, perfectly complete Buddha, medicine guru, King of Vajra light, I prostrate. So if we're not familiar with the confession prayer, those who are not, let's sit down and recite this together. So you might do it either sitting down, you can also do it standing up while you're prostrating, if you know it by heart, or you can continue prostrating and just listen. But if you haven't read through it before, then we're going to do that, because this is the Sutra of the Three Heaps. Yeah. So the first heap is prostrating, confession, chanting the names. Second heap is chanting the names and worship. Sorry. The second heap is confession. And the third heap is rejoicing and dedicating. So the confession, rejoicing, dedicating also comes in here. These are the last two heaps. So we read together, all you 35 Buddhas, 7 medicine Buddhas, and the others as many Tathagata Arhat, perfect complete Buddha Bhagavans, as there are abiding, living and residing in all the world systems, the 10 directions. All you Buddha Bhagavans, please pay attention to me. In this life and all the states of rebirth in which I have circled in samsara, beginningless lies, whatever negative actions I've created, made others create, or rejoice in the creation of, whichever possession of the holy objects of offering, possessions of the Sangha, possessions of the Sangha of the 10 directions that I've appropriated, made others appropriate, or rejoice in the appropriation of, whichever among the 5 heavy negative karmas without break I've done, caused to be done, or rejoice in the doing of, whichever the 10 non-virtuous passive actions I have engaged in, cause others to engage in, or rejoice in the engaging of, whatever I've done being obscured by these karmas causes me to be born as a sentient being in the hell realm, in the animal realm, in the preter realm, in a religious country, as barbarian or as long-lived God, with imperfect faculties holding wrong views or not being pleased with a Buddha's descent. In the presence of the Buddha Bhagavans who are transcendental wisdom, who are eyes, who are witnesses, who are valid, and who see with omniscient consciousness, I admit and confess all these negative actions. I do not conceal them nor hide them, and from now on in the future I will abstain or refrain from committing them again. So this is like really opening up, confession, regretting confessions in here. So we just hold that for a moment. As well as the power of restraint, that's in there too. Now the rejoicing and dedicating. All Buddha Bhagavans, please pay attention to me in this life and all the other states of rebirth in which I've circled in samsara from beginningless lives. Whatever roots of virtue I've created by generosity, even as little as giving just one mouthful of food to a being born in the animal realm. Whatever roots of virtue I've created by guarding morality, whatever roots of virtue I've created by following pure conduct, whatever roots of virtue I've created by fully ripening sentient beings, whatever roots of virtue I've created by generating bodhicitta, and whatever roots of virtue I've created by my unsurpassed transcendental wisdom, all these assembled and gathered, then combined together, I fully dedicate to the unsurpassed, the unexcelled, that higher than the high, that superior to the superior. Thus I completely dedicate to the highest, perfectly complete enlightenment. Just as the past Buddha Bhagavans have fully dedicated, just as the future Buddha Bhagavans will fully dedicate, And just as the presently abiding Buddha Bhagawans are fully dedicating, like that I too dedicate fully. I confess all negative actions individually. I rejoice in all the merits. I urge and request all Buddhas, may I receive the supreme, holy, peerless, transcendental wisdom. So just taking a moment, really to feel that we received all the blessing, all the purification for those powerful Buddhas, seated on the white elephant throne, reciting the power of the names, doing the physical action of prostrating, and through our regret and the compassion of the enlightened beings, the holy beings, all our karmas are purified. We feel like we're clean, clear like crystal. To the conquerors, the best of humans, those who are living in the present time, who have lived in the past, and who will likewise come, all those who have qualities as vast as an infinite ocean, with hands folded, I approach for refuge. So just taking a moment just to feel the benefit of the purification, chanting the names. How does your mind feel? And in that space where the mind's maybe a little bit more open, lighter, experiencing the benefit of the purification. As always, we dedicate. We did dedicate in that verse, but we'll just do one more dedication. Dedicating all the energy of the class through listening, reflection, meditation, doing the practice. For ourselves, for all beings, especially in this world, bodhicitta is so important. The good heart, as Lama Zopa Rinpoche would always pray, may that ripen, especially in the minds, the hearts of beings who have power, political leaders. Any type of being has power over others, may they always have the power of bodhicitta, good-heartedness in their mind. Myself and all sentient beings, may that ripen as much as possible in this world. Janju Senju Rinpoche Mage Panam Gegür Shik Yeba Nyamba Meba Yi Gonne Gondu Pelwar Shok. May the precious view of emptiness not yet born arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. And for the long life is His Holiness Dalai Lama, who does embody bodhicitta, who does embody wisdom realizing emptiness, for all these great masters who have these qualities, may they live a long life. As well as all of us who are practicing step by step to develop bodhicitta, wisdom realizing emptiness. So we all have a long life. So we recite this prayer together at aspiration, incomparable, kind, and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world. May you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. All right. Well, it went 5 minutes over. Wasn't too bad. I was still like, I've got a lot to cover in the last bit. But anyway, thank you so much for coming. And as you know, we've got one more class, so there wasn't a lot of time, I'm sorry, for questions. So if any questions did come up about that practice, please keep them, hold them, and we can talk about it in the next class. In our last class on Tuesday, we will go over the preliminaries, we go over what that looks like, and also the practice in Ngöndro, what that looks like. And any other questions you might have around these practices, please bring them with you. There'll be space for questions there. Thanks. See you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
And
so
thank you,
much.
Bay.
Thanks.
Did a great
Thank
job.
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Angie.
Thank you,
Oh,
Venerable
thank
Angie.
you.
Thank you,
Oh, wow, I'm
Bay.
getting a
Thank you,
gift.
everyone.
Oh, that's very sweet.